so cold.
Which translates into Grave of the Devil. I found this article on UFOinsight.com. Looks like it's been updated maybe on October 12th, 2021. The original article was August 27th, 2021. Written by Marcus Lauf. It says the Grave of the Devil case, a UFO crash in Pripyat in Russia. Following the Glasnost agreement of the 1980s, coupled with the collapse of the Soviet Union, a surge of UFO reports would enter the wider public domain, some of which are as intriguing as they are disturbing. One particular account alleges that a UFO crashed in the Shaitan Mazar, that's spelled S-H-A-I-T-A-N, Mazar, M-A-Z-A-R, which translates as Grave of the Devil, located in Tian Shan Mountains in Kyrgyzstan, near the Chinese border. Not only did the incident feature a dramatic chase and interception involving multiple great fighter jets, but it would result in several search and retrieval missions and various successes. The incident is perhaps one of the best documented cases of both a UFO sighting and a crash, and what's more, as we shall see, it is just one of several such planes that managed to beat up of another world to come out of Russia in the final years of the Cold War in the Soviet Union. Was this perhaps due to the imminent collapse of the communist regime behind an activity that these apparent questions all around the world have interest in such matters? Yeah, pretty wild stuff. Of course, you know, when the Soviet Union collapsed in the library, interesting soul. If you've ever seen the movie Lords of War, does a pretty good job describing how British was very clean. Hard to imagine how they sold this stuff too, maybe they did. It says the account comes into us specifically from Russian anthropologist Nikolay Sabatin and Emil Ackerman, and it is from their research following his case. Goes on down and says, according to the account, at around 5 p.m. on August 28th, 1991, a huge green object was spotted over the Caspian Sea. Of course, the Caspian Sea has all kinds of stories itself to know about UFOs and extraterrestrials. It was tracked by radar operators to the tracking station on the Manusha Peninsula, with estimates that were around 2,000 feet long and around 300 feet wide, and was at an altitude of 29,000 feet. More concerning, it was moving at an approximate speed of 6,000 miles per hour. After issuing the standard find a code request and receiving no reply, the tracking station notified the transmitter at 8:59. They would confirm they too had the object on their radars and that no other aircraft from their facility was in the region. It was at this point that a military alert was sounded. Moments later, 229 fighter jets that were already airborne on a routine mission were sent to the region in an attempt to intercept the invading object. At the same time, 200 floating MiGs were scrambled from the ground to join them. Their orders were simple: have the enemy back land, and if they refuse, shoot it. A short time later, all 4 of the jets were over the LC and soon had radar followed by visual confirmation. They would describe the aerial vehicle as being without gray and elongated. At this point, the leader of the MiGs issued another frame of field request before ordering a fall enemy so they could tag it to the ground. Once more, they received no response. The MiGs flying around a few thousand miles repeated the object began to close in. The closer the MiG fighters got to the object, the more detail they could make out. For example, there appeared to be some writing or symbols on the green exterior that the pilots claimed these were in Indian language. They also noticed what appeared to be two portholes on what they assumed was the front of the object. But the object, or at least their occupants, seemed a little concerned about the MiG fighters all around it, and the flight leader radioed to the ground control for instruction. Rather than open fire at this stage, they were ordered to close in on the back of the tire. Once they were parallel to the vehicle, they were ordered to fire warning shots in front of it.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, mid-force. No. Honestly, when I started this, I thought this unlimited premium wireless $15. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? So I shouldn't be thinking that. Give it a try. Midmobile.com/save.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Intel, Banana Republic, ButcherBox, and Velocity all have in common? They power their businesses with Shopify. Shopify is the most innovative and scaled commerce platform on the planet that also happens to have the best converting checkout company. That's no industry secret. That's Shopify.
In fact, all the electrical systems suddenly went down. Even worse, the plane's engines started to fail. Forced to head back to base as best they could, the object soon took off into the distance. Incidentally, the plane's controls and engines recovered once the object had moved away from the fighters. In the meantime, radar operators continued to follow the object's progress, noting that it appeared to be heading back to the RLC. And what's more, operators calculated the speed at an almost unbelievable 42,000 miles per hour. That is pretty fast. They warned other military and civilian airfields in the approximate flight path of the object of its presence, now worried that a collision with another aircraft was a distinct possibility. They watched the object for around 45 minutes. Then, without warning, it simply vanished from the radar screens. It wasn't, however, the end of the incident. Over the following weeks, there was much discussion in military briefings regarding the incident, as well as preliminary investigations. It would soon come to light that, according to local rumors, on the day of the incident, several members of the local population witnessed a huge object crash in the Shaitan Mazar mountain region. By the end of September, an expedition team was formed with a view to locating the downed craft. This unit was made of a combination of UFO researchers from the UFO organization Sat Kufan, led by Anton Bogatov, several locals who knew the area well, and several experienced mountain climbers. The environment of the Tian Shan Mountains they were about to enter would be far from forgiving. This place was like a landscape. The search was 2 weeks old, but no sign of the crash site or the wreckage was found. However, rumors reached the team through local messengers that several local residents had indeed found the site. Of concern was that they appeared to have suffered burns shortly after venturing there, and bizarrely, their watches all ceased working. The government eventually headed to the Sara Des River Valley, determined to visit the location of the apparent crash. However, after a further 2 weeks in the harsh, snowy environment, and with several members of the search team suffering from frostbite, they made the decision to head back to their base camp. Ultimately, the search mission was unsuccessful. The rumors and local gossip of the UFO crash, though, continued, and so did talk of the event among high-ranking Russian officials. Despite the fact that the first team had failed to locate the crash, even after a month of searching, Russian authorities were looking to launch a second attempt. When the Russian Air Force claimed to have located the wreckage in November of 1991, it appeared their fortunes had turned. However, as the unit attempted to hoist a piece of the wreckage, it caused the helicopter to crash. All those on board were killed. Sakafan was informed of the incident. That's the folks that were the UFO group trying to investigate this thing, as well as the fact that a new search was to be arranged for the spring or early summer of 1992. This time, though, the unit was much larger and under the overall leader of a retired Russian Major German Chekhov. What's more, rather than just set out for the crash site, all of those involved had to undergo training and pass multiple examinations and tests. Ultimately, when the second search mission set out in June 1992, they did so as 3 units, each covering a different area around the location of the Discovery helicopter crew the previous November. Within several weeks after combing much of the area, they discovered what appeared to be the site where the UFO had come down. The huge object had broken in two and set on a plateau in the Grave of the Devil region. Many of the crew would recall how there appeared to be an energy source coming from the object, an energy that was almost palpable, even when at a distance of around 5,000 feet. As they moved closer to the downed otherworldly vehicle, however, the feelings of jubilation began to turn to sudden and unexplained feelings of anxiousness and fear. And the closer they got, the stronger these feelings became. As they got closer still, various electronic devices and equipment began to malfunction. At the same time, there was an electrical field to the air, which now appeared very humid. Even stranger, when they checked their compasses, all of these needles were pointed directly to the monstrous craft. Due to many of their devices malfunctioning, most of the planned tests had to be abandoned. Despite not being able to get any closer than around 2,500 feet to the crippled craft, they could take plenty of details visually. As the unit looked around the scene around them, they were able to work out a likely scenario as to what had happened to this futuristic vehicle. Above where they stood was a large overhanging cliff. It appeared to those present that the object had crashed into this overhang, which had caused it to break in two and come crashing down to the ground, sitting around 5,000 feet before stopping. It was also clear that an explosion likely to have happened as a result of the impact with the overhang was the cause of the craft having broken in two. The resulting gaping holes in the two sides of the object allowed the search unit to see inside. Although they could see no sign of a crew, they could see strange beams and flooring of the craft. There was also considerable damage to the front of the vehicle where it had hit the ground. The symbols reported by the MiG pilots on the day the object appeared were also clearly visible. Copies were quickly drawn, and all those who studied them attested they had not seen anything like them, and so could not be matched to any known human language. Incidentally, the search unit managed to capture multiple photographs of the downed craft. However, it would appear that the energy field ruined the films as all came severely darkened and blurred. This was much the same for the attempts to video the find, with the video cameras not working at all. The unit also discovered the remains of the wrecked helicopter, now theorizing that the strong magnetic fields could very well have caused the helicopter's equipment to malfunction and ultimately send it crashing to the harsh terrain below. They did find it a little perplexing and perhaps unnerving that there was no sign of any of the bodies. As Nikolai Sabatin in email background asked, might it be that the military secretly recovered the bodies? If so, why? Although a third mission to the site was in the planning almost immediately after the discovery of the crashed craft, it would not go ahead until 6 years later, in August of 1998. And even then, it was a severely depleted effort, not least as they failed to secure the services funding of German Chekhov, who had led the successful second mission. As the Russian economy was in a severe downturn, he declined to become involved with the third attempt so he could concentrate on his already struggling businesses. They would find the site once more. However, all that remained were the markers they themselves had left to mark the points of the craft. The wreckage itself was nowhere to be found. They suspected that the military had discreetly returned following the discovery of the craft and retrieved it successfully. Perhaps the fact that the ground had seemingly been planed as to take away any evidence that an impact had happened backed up their suspicion. There is much to contemplate from this apparent case of crashed UFO. It is certainly an intriguing account, and one that has details that arise in other such cases of downed UFOs. However, while the credibility of the source here is not a question, there are several sticking points that are perhaps worth examining. The fact that no photographs or video footage were captured, for example, falls nicely into the hands of skeptics. After all, if we assume that electromagnetic energy did ruin the film and cause cameras to stop working, we might assume that authorities would have dispatched a plane on a photographic mission, or even sent another unit to the area and have them photograph it from much further away. And what should we think of the third search mission? Did the military remove the wreckage of the craft in the time it took to organize it? And might his concerns of business not only been the only reason that Chekhov declined to set out to the site a third time? Might it be, given his military background, as speculative as it might be, that he was fully aware that the craft some ET situation happened where this craft was part of a bigger fleet, and maybe their own kind came back and got them. Then it goes on and talks about another crash here. Apparently it happened in 1989. It says near Izhny, Chigrin. We'll leave that one for another day. I had to have another article here I wanted to look at on this crash over what we're calling Devil's Grave. This comes to us from BrackGuides.com. It's got some cool pictures. And really, where this thing happened at is really a desolate area. The title of this is The Strange Tale of Shaitan Mazar UFO, written by Lawrence Mitchell. Lawrence Mitchell investigates one of the country's strange encounters by Firsty Edman. So dated February 12th, 2019. Very beautiful, stark area here. A little green, but I mean, other than some of these small juniper-type pine trees at the bottom of the hill, nothing on these mountains. It almost looks like someplace in Nevada or something. It says, in the early morning of August 28, 1991, an extremely large flying object described as being 600 meters long and 100 meters in diameter. So what are we looking like, 800 feet long or something, and 350 feet in diameter? Pretty good sized craft. Showed up over the Caspian Sea, tracked by the Soviet radar station on the Mangleshek Peninsula. The radar showed the object to be traveling at a speed of around 960 kilometers per hour, so that's 600 miles an hour, and an altitude of 6,600 meters, say 20,000 feet. Alarmed by this unexplained manifestation, the Soviet authorities immediately broadcast a friend or foe radio signal, but it received no answer. Knowing that no test flights were taking place in the vicinity, the operators of Mangleshek issued a military alert. 2 MiG-29 fighters were diverted from a routine mission to intervene over the Aral Sea, and their pilots were shocked to see a gigantic Zeppelin-shaped object when the vessel came within range. The UFO was described as being metallic gray with 2 portals toward its front and strange green symbols at the rear. So here we have a little clearer picture of this thing. This metallic gray looking craft. The skin of the craft is not green as the other account kind of insinuated, but it's actually these green colored letters that are printed or maybe engraved into this metallic gray craft. And why would they do that? There was still no response from the craft, so it was decided that the pilots should fire warning shots across this flight path, forcing it to follow the MiGs to land. However, the pilots could not fire, as when they drew close, there was no response from their flight controls, so they had to abandon their mission. As they withdrew, the pilots regained control of their planes and were able to make a safe landing. Ground radar continued to track the vessel, which made a zigzag of radar tracking. The craft vanished from the radar screen somewhere in the region of Lake Issyk-Kul in Kyrgyzstan. By the end of September, rumors started to emerge that a large object had crashed in a Shaitan Mazar gorge near the source of the Sarjak River in the central Tian Shan Mountains of eastern Kyrgyzstan. Witnesses from the region claimed they had seen an immense object crash deep into the mountains of the east. At the same time, rumors spread that some locals had found the crash site but had received radiation burns when they approached the wreckage. an expedition was set up to investigate. A UFO group traveled into the mountains for 2 weeks but could not find any evidence of a crash and eventually had to leave, suffering from frostbite and exposure. You can see from these pictures, this area is it's literally the middle of nowhere. A report came to the attention of the same Russian UFO group in November 1991 that the Russian Air Force had found the crash site, but while attempting to hoist the wreckage from the snow, a helicopter had crashed, killing all on board. As it was winter, there was no opportunity to explore the crash site further until the following year. The group prepared to make a journey to the site in June 1992. This time they found the crash site, but as they approached within 1,000 meters, so a little over half a mile of the craft, they suffered from an overwhelming sense of dread and fatigue. In addition, the group's instruments started to fail spectacularly, as if they were being affected by a powerful electromagnetic field emanating from the wreckage. They were not able to approach closer than 800 meters, as some of the team were experiencing radiation burns. Photographs were taken, but these turned out to be hopelessly overexposed and useless, as did the videotapes they tried to record. A third journey was planned a few months later, but this was ill-fated and ended up being delayed for 6 years. By the time they returned, the UFO was gone, as was the Russian helicopter. Whether the name or location of Shaitan Mazar, Devil's Grave, has any real bearing on the story, or is merely there for dramatic effect, is unclear. The district of Shaitan Mazar, close to the source of the Sarajak River, already holds some mystical intrigue for the local population, as there is said to be a sacred stream here, which is gifted with mysterious healing properties. Today, the name Shaitan Mazar will forever be linked with the strange and perhaps apocryphal incident that is claimed to have taken place on the eve of the birth of the Kyrgyz Republic. It is also the name adopted by an American heavy metal band, as it turns out. Wow, pretty cool story there. Such a communication gap, though, when it comes to these UFO crashes in other countries, let alone when it's someplace that's in far eastern Russia, right there near the Chinese border. Of course, this is over 30 years ago. If that would have happened today, I can imagine it might even be a race between the Chinese and the Russians as to who gets there. So while we have all this talk about hidden UFO craft here in the States, we've got Gary Nolan implying that he knows where it's at, what this material's at. He can't tell us. It doesn't seem like a big deal to me. Tom DeLonge has come out years ago saying that he had acquired some. Other people have supposedly had UFO metamaterial over the years. For crying out loud, they had the material that was discovered there, near Council Bluffs, Iowa, I believe, back in the 60s or whatever. Nolan, they just did tests on that recently and found out that it's a very strange combination of iron or whatever. Don't know how it ended up in this. So we have case after case after case of UFO metamaterial being found. If there's UFO metamaterial, the reason that there's UFOs, I mean that material had to come somewhere. And so it seems like lately we've been having of the UFO, the MATE guys come out, Louis Elizondo and a few others that have claimed that, well, where they're this stuff out, implying that it's at Wright Patterson. Who knows, right? The thing to forget is that these things could have crashed all over the place. And it looks like there's a good case to be made for this one here going down to Kyrgyzstan. Now, where it ended up at, who knows? I mean, you had Russian military personnel selling all kinds of arms at that time. It's hard to believe that the CIA wouldn't have been in there to purchase this thing. Where this stuff is at, we probably never will know, because if they get their hands on something like that. And so I guess we can just kind of keep our eyes open and see if whoever left these things here will come back to get them. Till next time, this is UFO Warning, over.
Find the student in you, State College, with associate, bachelor's, and certificate programs in areas of business, education, health sciences, public safety, liberal arts, and there's something for everyone. Submit a free application online at home.com. Don't delay. Apply today. Remember, we are home.
and welcome to the program, UFO Warning. In this episode, we're talking about Does DeLonge Know? That's correct, does DeLonge know? Of course, we're talking about Tom DeLonge from To the Academy of Arts and Science fame, and asking, does he know where the UFO ships are hidden? There's been some talk lately by he knows, or he'd tell us where he believes the ship's hidden at. I think even Louis Elizondo and possibly David Grush have come out in the past and said, yes, we have these craft, these non-human entities. And so this is a worthy article, I think. This is from over at theblackvault.com. I follow John Greenwald on Twitter/X. I have a lot of respect for his work. Seems like a very interesting guy. And he's getting stuff that nobody else gets, just let's face it. Now, he takes a very kind of middle of the road, balanced approach. He's not, I guess what you would say, part of the UFO entertainment industry, I guess is what you would call me, even being a part of, having a podcast where we really come down on the side of UFOs and enjoy talking about it. John kind of presents both sides, more of a scientific approach. His main thing is he does lots and lots of great work with his FOIA request. I mean, he just gets so much stuff released, and it's a real service to him, a debt of gratitude for that, whether you follow John or not. I certainly have followed John for a long time. Now, this article is titled Army and To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, Unveiling the Secrecy Behind UFO Material Testing Agreement. This is written October 22, the Stars Media, into a cooperative research and development a secret due to TTSA's high-profile focus on UFO research, and the agreement allowed the Army access to alleged exotic materials in exchange for providing TTSA with research facilities and expertise. As the agreement's existence became known, many hoped it would offer concrete evidence about UAP-related materials. Yet, over time, it became clear that the level of secrecy surrounding this partnership would keep much of the public in the dark. That's the whole point. I want to interject here in the middle of this outstanding article, but just stop and think about it. If the CIA has a front company that does nothing but go around and buy up emerging technology that they can keep for themselves and the intelligence community, what makes you think this would be any different? Now, as I recall, the main thrust of this was DeLonge reportedly had some UFO metamaterial that they were hoping they could use to camouflage tanks. Like they said, 5 years later, we haven't heard a thing. Okay, the article continues. The story first appeared on the Black Vault in the article Secrecy Deepens About U.S. Army Agreement to Analyze UFO Material, published on October 17, 2019. In it, the Black Vault outlined the initial revelations and the air of mystery surrounding the agreement. Despite TTSA's press release announcing the CRADA, few details were available about the material involved or the specific goals of the research. This secrecy raised concerns that the public might never fully understand the scope of the collaboration. The article highlighted that the Army, despite being relatively open about some aspects of the agreement, did not disclose the nature or origin of the material it intended to study. Same old thing, no chain of custody. Months later, the Black Vault followed up with a second article titled Army Confirms Testing UFO Debris. Secrecy may loom for years about results. Published on March 4th, 2020. This marked a significant milestone in public awareness as the Army officially confirmed it was actively conducting tests on materials linked to UAPs, which it had obtained through TTSA. The article also highlighted growing public frustration as little information was being shared about the testing process or the findings. The Black Vault's investigation into the Army TTSA collaboration took another turn when the Department of Defense exempts records on To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science. Article was published on January 25th, 2021. This third installment revealed that the Department of Defense invoked specific exemptions to block the release of CRADA-related documents through FOIA requests. These exemptions, notably those regarding national defense and foreign policy, cast doubt on whether the public would ever have full access to the results or documentation related to the tests conducted under CRADA. Together, these articles document the evolving but highly restricted public knowledge of the Army TTSA agreement. The agreement initially sparked hope that the Army's involvement would bring scientific scrutiny and transparency to the investigation of UAP materials. However, it became apparent that the Army's testing would remain largely shielded from public view, with secrecy surrounding the results and the materials involved growing deeper. The Black Vault, through numerous FOIA requests, has continued to press for the results of the material granted by CRADA. This dedicated archive serves as a repository for all related documentation, reflecting the ongoing battle between transparency and government secrecy and matters related to UAPs and UFO research in relation to this CRADA. Each document obtained adds another piece to the puzzle, but the full picture of what the Army and TTS discovered remains elusive. The Black Vault negotiated a rolling release with the Army, and the first package was released on October 23, 2024. It is unclear how much more information will be released, but the Army has assured the Black Vault it continues to process their records as quickly as possible. This page will be updated as those additional releases are received. And, trying to get these things to upload onto the site, right now, currently, this site must just be completely hammered because the documents aren't uploading just yet. But honestly, I'm not too positive on what we're going to find out from this. To me, it's just going to be more of the same, even though I strongly commend John Greenwald for his hard work at trying to get this stuff released. Man, it seems like it's going to be awful hard for that to happen. I want to take a little bit deeper dive into this and look at some of the comments that were made by Gary Nolan. Of course, I believe you could say he's an associate of Tom DeLonge's, and see where he stands on just where this stuff is at and where it's being hidden at. So far, I've got these sites reposted on Twitter. You can go over there and check out some of this stuff, and we're just going to stay on top of this. This is really kind of a breaking story. Now, talking about Gary Nolan, that's Gary with 2 R's. Yep, the same Gary Nolan that has blocked little old me from his Twitter post. Don't know why. Anyway, there is a post put up there by Disclosure Diaries. I reposted it onto my Twitter site, so you can go there at Morning Sub UFO and check it out. It says, Gary Nolan insinuates he knows the location of labs with UAP-related materials. In the closing scene of @James Fox's upcoming documentary, the program, Gary Nolan provides a suggestively cryptic non-answer to an important question. Perhaps Gary should participate in the upcoming congressional hearings in November. As much as I can appreciate the perspectives he has contributed in the past, this topic has more than enough gatekeepers as it is. Bottom line, the community should consistently demand less cryptic non-answers in favor of more concrete statements made under oath. Why, I couldn't agree with that more. Let's just listen to this little interview here between Fox and Nolan.
If we were provided the clearances right here and right now, could you walk me into a lab and show me something? I'm not saying anything.
So that was kind of the little, I guess, ending for that show. It's frustrating to me when we have these Mafia members like Gary Nolan, Tom DeLonge, Louis Elizondo, others telling us that they know something, but they just can't tell us about it. Now, as much as I would like to say that that's just hyperbole, the fact that Tom DeLonge has entered into this agreement with the U.S. Army to test UFO metamaterial, and here it is 5 years later, and we know stuff's still going on, but we don't know what's going on, and they're just now 5 years later telling John Greenwald, yeah, we can do some releases, kind of a rolling release. Well, to me, it's kind of a slow rolling release. It's just, it doesn't work, and it's not the kind of disclosure that we need. We don't need gatekeepers. We need the truth. Let's take a look here and follow this a little bit further down the rabbit hole. Now, I also found this 1-minute excerpt of Louis Elizondo being interviewed by Glenn Beck.
This is where I'm
From
gonna
back
say
on August
goodbye
14th, 2020. Went ahead.
to the next time.
This is back when he was still
Thanks
working
for watching. Listening.
for Tom.
Interested in what I'm listening to? It's UFO Warning on Spotify.
And he was not even able to afford to pay to have the black water dumped out of his said camper and had to dig a pit for his own toilet. You can watch an interview with Coulthard, and that's Louis' admission and Coulthard's implication, not mine. But that being said, I bring this up because we've got these documents that are just starting